I got everything I wanted. So, guys, John's gonna do all the work here today.
Ready.
Listen, you need to come up here and take this seat, because you rock.
Okay. You might get started. Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is John Bradley. I'm the Vice Chair of the Eugene Police Commission, and sitting in today for Amelia Holtz, who is on leave. This is the December 2025 Eugene Police Commission meeting. It is called to order. First item on our agenda is review and approval of the agenda. Anyone have any concerns? Jack?
Move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Rady.
Second.
Is there a second? Very good. We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the agenda for the evening, please signify by raising your hand. And it is unanimous. You do not need to take nays or abstentions. Thank you all. Next up on our agenda, we have public comment. We have anyone set up yet? for
No.
public comment?
No emails and this week there. And these,
Anyone in the gallery would like to provide public comment?
Anyone online that would like to provide public comment, you can raise your hand.
Okay, well, it doesn't look like we have anyone here with public comment. Next on the agenda, we have previous meeting recap. And so, let's see, Chloe, what do you do? And, I know we talked about DLPR technology. And there have been some updates, since then that the chief has made.
you guys see this. These are revisions to that all.
And revisions. We also inadvertently did not approve the minutes from October accidentally, so I apologize to you all. We're gonna go back and try to correct that tonight since we have forum and an opportunity to do that. So that's another update. All right, any other comments about the November recap? Okay, moving on. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just made a list of for the November minutes under previous. No worries.
Yeah, that's it.
We'll get that.
Is it okay if we, is that, okay if we refer to that as a Scrivener's error, or would you like to formally,
No, that makes me.
is that okay with you all? Jack, Commissioner Ray, okay with that? All right, well, next up on the agenda, we have a revision of the October 9th, 2025, these meeting minutes. I think my understanding clearly was that the minutes for October were revised, but we didn't get a final vote on the actual minutes themselves. Is that something?
So it was, during the October meeting, you guys made a motion to approve the agenda. Someone wanted to amend it. And so there was a motion to amend, but there was never a vote. So you guys just need to vote that you approve the amended agenda that you move forward with in October.
So moved.
I apologize, one question. Was it the minutes or the agenda that we didn't get right?
Oh, the agenda, yeah, it was the agenda.
The agenda for October.
Yeah, and the mistake was caught in the minutes.
It was caught. Okay, right. So we have a motion from Commissioner Rady to approve the agenda for October. Is there a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Questions? All right, we'll go ahead and approve, have a vote here. All in favor of approving the agenda Please signify by raising your hand. And it is unanimous. So thank you all. Motion carries. Does that take care of?
I believe so, yes.
Amended
Oh.
agenda.
You have to then approve the amended agenda. So you approve the agenda. Then there's some discussion about amending it, and you have to approve the amended agenda from October. Same type of vote,
So,
Okay,
with the words amended.
all right.
Okay,
So we need a second.
Second,
So we have a motion to second to approve the amended agenda. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Everybody else? Good.
Who made the motion just then?
I believe that was Commissioner Rady.
may I ask for clarification just to make sure on our agenda tonight, it says that we're approving minutes. But we have just approved an agenda.
so the mistake was caught in the October minutes. There wasn't, no one could hear that,
Okay,
there
okay.
was a vote taken, and so we may have to revise the minutes to
Got it.
reflect what you guys have done tonight. It's all a little bit confusing, to be
Okay.
honest. I'm not sure they've had that question before at the state recorder's office.
Okay,
But they told me that you guys needed to do what you just did, and so you have done that. So the issue was the agenda, but it was caught in minutes that will then need to be revised.
got it.
Okay. All right, next up, we have the minutes from November 13th. Commissioner Rady, go ahead, sir.
I have 3 points that I would like to note in the minutes with changing. The pages are not numbered, but on the 5th page, where just before the automated license plate readers discussion, Chief Skinner commented that the media asked him whether officers attempted to use drone technology as part of its response. This was for the guy with the 12-gauge shotgun menacing people in the street. And what Chief Skinner said that he was asked about was less than lethal technology, not drone technology. And he discussed why it was out of range and the wrong thing to do, and would show poor judgment to bring a taser to a gunfight. And so that should, rather than drone technology, less than lethal technology would be the correction. On page 9, which is the officer response to calls policy, my comment just before the bottom of the page, Commissioner Rady asked for an example and asked if code 2 was more discreet than lights and sirens. And what I said was, is code 2 a more discreet code 3?
Mind saying that one more time?
Yeah, but it was that both were, you were urgently summoned to the spot, but with a code 2, you do it quietly. You keep the siren and the lights off, and therefore you might not be able to go quite as fast depending on traffic. But just a more discreet response. Okay. And the third one was on page 11, which is in the commissioner's closing comments. My comment, the third line on seeing videos from communities in Hartford and Chicago of police officers after Chicago telling ICE officers to get out of their neighborhoods. It wasn't just the population, it was actual Chicago police, Hartford police officer telling off ICE and saying, back off, we do the job here and we follow the laws. Just of police officers inserted after Chicago would be correction. And that's it.
Any other questions? Errors or omissions that you all can identify? Any concerns about the amendments from Commissioner Reagan? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
Second, very good, thank you. Got a motion, a second, any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by raising your hands. And vote is unanimous in approval. And thank you all. Minutes are approved, motion carries. Next up, we have liaison. So, I don't have a full list of all the liaisons. I have, Commissioner Neal is absent tonight. Does anyone happen to have a report for the commissioner meeting? Yes. Okay.
City council?
Yeah, I think the most obvious report back was that, as you probably all heard, the city has canceled its contract with WA. If you haven't, Chief Skinner made a statement, and you can find that, I'm sure. I have the link, but it can't be that hard. And then there's information, I believe, on the EPD website as well about that, so you can find that there. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's the major thing that has happened in the.
Thank you, Councilor Yang. Rights Commission, we have a homeless person's Memorial Day event coming up on the 21st of December at the Farmers Market Pavilion. It'll be inside pavilion this year, as it was last year. There's been specific attention to focus the time on both people with lived experience of homelessness and people who have provided service or providing services actively to people experiencing homelessness. So our hope is that it can be more memorial, less disruption in this current year, so that people can remember those that we've lost. The concern, of course, is that many of the people who we lose on the street, this is the only memorial service that they'll have for many of them, and so we want to try to facilitate a fitting goodbye.
What time?
Let me make sure I've got the time right. I believe we're looking at that the resource fair starts at 5, and the ceremony itself starts at 6 and 7. And I'll check at some point in the meeting here. I'll check and make sure I've given you the exact right time. I believe that's what we're at. I'll correct myself if I made a mistake there. That's what we'll have for Human Rights Commission. Any other liaison reports? All right. Next up, we have commissioner comments, and we'll start online with Commissioner Lyman.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to share my keen insight.
I believe you're still on mute.
Can you hear me? All right, my audio says it's on. Come back to me. Pass.
All right. Well, we'll move on. Commissioner Brady, do you have anything for us tonight?
If there are any commissioners who have not taken the Citizens Police Academy and who have the time to do so and have not signed up for it, I strongly urge you to do so. It will be invaluable in your work on the commission. I got to spend 5 days with my great grandparents in the absence of media, telephone, computer, and everything, and I can't tell you how wonderful that was. Beyond that, I want to applaud the city council for providing some resources to help people who've been victimized by ICE. This is good to see. And that's what I've got for you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Espinoza-Bloom.
Don't have any.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Donovan. Thank you, Commissioner. Councilor Yang.
Yeah, I hate to have to do this, but I have to clarify that we've put money aside, but it hasn't been designated yet. So that's the next step. So that is the suggestion that has been made, but it hasn't technically been voted on yet. So but we're working in that direction and that is the intention. Other than that, no, I have no comment.
All right, thank you, Counselor, and Commissioner Rose.
I have three quick things. First is that I had a ride along with Officer Boudris. I'm sorry if I mispronounced last name. In the last month, and I just want to compliment this new officer who had been out on his own for maybe 3 weeks or something. I was so impressed with his care and concern and the supporting officer who he complimented. I was just impressed with them all. So I appreciate that opportunity to ride along with him. Second, I have signed up for the Citizens Police Academy, so I'm very much looking forward to that. Third, I mentioned in the last meeting that I had an opportunity to travel to Seattle with a delegation from folks in Lane County to kind of look at their deflection program. Not sure that that's what they call it, but it's similar. Learned a lot, but perhaps the most impactful moment was attending sort of a roundtable meeting that happens weekly in the Burien Police Department that includes the DA's office, police officers, the sheriff's office, and peer support people who are on the ground working together to sort of help figure out where folks are at and how they can support them collectively. And I'm very hopeful that we can take some of what we learned and apply it here. And that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next in the agenda, we have the chief's report and.
Can you hear me by any chance now?
Thank you. Did I miss? Oh, are we, do we have Commissioner Lyman now?
Can you hear me? Hey, are you able to hear me?
Okay. Commissioner Lyman,
No.
would you like to email your comments or?
Chat?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, okay, all right. We can return back if that's all right to that, before we end the meeting. DC, Adam, go ahead.
Yeah, it's nice to see you all again and a lot of new faces. It's been a while since I've been here, so thank you for your work. And Jack, thank you for the plug in Citizen Police Academy. And well, you were spot on with what's a code 2 and what's a code 3 response, so that was impressive. Monday, we're gonna hire 6 new police officers, so around here, that's what we call a great day. And so we're very excited about that. We will still be sitting, unfortunately, around 20 officers down. We continue to recruit aggressively in all kinds of different places to attract a broad candidate pool. But we're competing with a lot of other police agencies that are hiring. To hire 6, we hire every 90 days, and to hire 6 is a pretty good number to bring in. And it shows there's a tremendous amount of interest in this police department, which is really great. It is the holiday season, so I'm very happy to report yesterday we went out to St. Vincent de Paul. And we had a serving day where, in conjunction with Texas Roadhouse, we were able to serve our in-house community, which is really well represented by all members of this organization, not just your officers, but professional staff and otherwise. So that's a thing that, an event that is very near and dear to our hearts. It's driven by Dave Clark, and it's really cool. Saturday, we had Shop with a Cop. Now, if you guys have never seen Shop with a Cop, it's fabulous. We bring in 50, in this case, this year, 51 children from Bethel in 4J School District, who maybe might not have had the best of Christmases because of their situations. And we send them shopping with cops. And so this is all fronted by the Salem Police Foundation to the tune of $25,000. The kids don't have to pay anything. Our staff signs up in advance. It's well attended. Usually there's multiple officers shopping with their children. And what was really cool this year is there was a large representation from state police in particular. We had the UOPD there, Lane County Sheriff's Office, Junction City. So it's not just EPD, even though it's our event, but we bring other agencies in. The goal and the purpose of that, it's not just to give those kids a great Christmas. It's a heartwarming event for our police officers, and they very much enjoy it. And it also bridges that gap. You know, any intersection point that we can get where we have children with police officers, I think is a very good thing personally. We want our officers to be seen as guardians. We want our officers to be seen as people. And that only happens by contact and repetition. And what we really want is our young individuals in the moment of crisis to know that's a police officer. If I need help, that's where I go. So it's a very big deal for us. The chief wanted me to touch just briefly on the flock camera systems. Yes, in fact, we did terminate our contract late last Friday. We are still awaiting a response from flock safety systems, so that's what the next step is and requirement on this. So there really is no change from the information that Chief Skinner has presented and is available on our website. A lot of information there. So if you have any questions about it, just to be consistent with what we're sharing both with all our boards and commissions and the community, just best to go there. But there's been no change since last Friday at this point. I will say there was some concerns about one of our cameras being turned on, and we knew nothing about it for a few hours. We are daily reviewing our flock camera database or portal to make sure that no cameras are inadvertently turned back on again that we would not be aware of. We've been assured by flock safety systems that the appropriate toggle switch, as it's called, has been flipped to the do not run, I guess would be the term. So. And I think the last but not least, certainly on my list is, I'm retiring at the end of the month, so I won't get to see you all again. We got a lot of transition in the city. Today was ceremoniary send-off party, tomorrow's our last day. So we're looking ahead, new city manager coming in, a lot of transition going on. For my position, Captain Jake Burke will be appointed on my departure as our next deputy chief of police. So I think you guys have met and heard from Jake. He's just a phenomenal guy. Really, really good police officer. And his background as a detective, it's pretty remarkable. I'll just leave it at that. So I think we're in good hands, but we're gonna have a lot of movement within the organization yet again, because as we move one up to deputy chief, that'll create a captain position, which will create a lieutenant position, which will create a sergeant position. So we're already young at the leadership level, and we're gonna, young may not be the right word, because I certainly don't fit that, but inexperienced, so. And, that's it. Nothing else more to share.
Congratulations, DC. That's
Thank you.
really exciting.
Yeah, very excited for it. I'm gonna miss all of it, of course. I'm gonna miss every ounce of being a police officer. Sooner or later, it's gonna happen, so now's the time. It's a good time for the organization, for me to step away. We're in a good rhythm, and it's time for new leadership to step up, so happy for that. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your 34 years of service. Long years. So
Appreciate that.
thank you, sir. Right. Next on the agenda, we have.
Chair, is there any chance you can hear me now? Hey, hey, that's the difference between Safari and Chrome. If I could, on this agenda topic, DC Adams, I worked with you on the CRB, and I just have to say, I have been incredibly impressed by you and the leadership that you provided, the support you gave your chief. And it's a blow, it's a loss. And I'm glad I regained my voice just in time to be able to say that. So, and I'll say my opening and the closing. So thank you. Thanks.
Commissioner Lyon. Right, next we have the introduction to the Eugene Police Auditor, Craig Netsky. Good evening, sir.
Hello. Nice to meet everybody. So I was gonna just say a few words, give a little bit of my background, talk a little bit about what the CRB does and kind of how we interact with the police commission. So background, I was a deputy district attorney in Los Angeles for 16 years, where I prosecuted everything from murder cases down to misdemeanors. Did 100 jury trials there. And 5 of those years I actually spent assigned to the LA County Sheriff's Department, which was my chance to work at a street level narcotics detail, where I got to see law enforcement from the ground up. After 16 years, I left that and switched sides. I did criminal defense and immigration law for more than 16 years, actually. I also took on the role of police oversight with the LAPD in that I was on the Board of Rights where we adjudicate police misconduct cases. I did that for all city employees for the city of Los Angeles, with the exception of the fire department. Not gonna go into those details, but I did the same for the county, so sheriffs, probation, various other departments for the county. So I did that for a long time as well. And the opportunity came, grateful to be up here in Eugene, starting just a few months ago. And if you don't know what the CRB, we work with the CRB. I know who's now lost his camera, but he's still there. As far as that goes, the CRB, we help support that, and we also intake all the complaints and commendations for the police department. I think we should write up one for the outgoing deputy chief there. But we recognize,
Accommodation.
no, I didn't say which. But we recognize both the good and bad, and we classify those. So let me just spend a minute talking about where the police commission comes into this whole process. As you know, you recommend policy decisions to the chief. And when those get implemented, if there's an allegation that an officer violates those policies, that's where the auditor's office comes in. We bring allegations, and then we do a preliminary investigation, but then internal affairs will do a formal investigation. And we oversee it to make sure it's thorough and complete. You'll hear a little bit about their stats and stuff today as well. But this is where I think it's important that we have regular communication, because obviously their decisions will directly impact how we do our work. Other than that, I was gonna just open it up to questions about myself, the office, how we do things, and those sorts of things. Oh, by the way, I am meeting with members individually, so if you do want to talk privately. Our office is going to be celebrating its 20th anniversary next year, so we're doing a lot of community outreach this year. And I think it's important the community get a chance to know us and what we do. So if anybody here or an organization is interested, I'm happy to come out and talk about that as well. Any questions for me? Okay,
No questions.
We're
Thank
glad
you.
to have you.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. All right. Next on our agenda, we have our annual report with AIC Lieutenant Griffin. Say that one more time. Yeah, Lieutenant John Vincent. Go ahead, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your attention and your time on this. I don't know, so I'll give a little bit of background on myself. I have not been here before. I am internal affairs sergeant right now, acting in capacity. Lieutenant, sometimes I worry my acting lessons aren't that great though, but. So I've been working with internal affairs for about 2.5 years. Before that, I was a patrol sergeant. Before that, I worked violent crimes detective for a few years. And I was a patrol officer for 3 years. I've been on our crisis negotiation team, in our arson investigation team, and a few other things here and there. So I decided I'd throw my hat in the ring for promoting, and I was successful. And then thought where I could gain some real life experience that'd be beneficial to the department, and internal affairs was that spot. So that's why I'm here today. And then this is the 2024 annual report. It's coming a little bit late. There was some transitions within our agency and within our office, and during that, we recognized that this was missed, and so I'm here to right that wrong. Has everybody had a chance to review this? Okay. I kind of leave it open to questions if you had any, and we can kind of work through that a little bit.
I have a Sean question.
Okay.
I've been studying it the last couple of days, and also I have to admit, I played Sudoku with the list of cases and the outcomes, and seeing if I could match them.
Okay.
Which was an interesting exercise. I think we ought to do. Okay, let's see what the questions are. There's one, first off, with the report, The charts and tables are all very valuable. It would be even more valuable if all of them were readable. Because many of them, the type is so small, it may be just my aged eyes, but I was having a hard time. And with some of them, the various colors used in the bars are so small, you can't tell one from the other. So
So
that
enlarging those would be.
someone
helpful.
should look at that
Okay.
next time.
I have progressive lenses, so I'm kind of with you on the small type. I promise.
Okay, yeah, I even brought my magnifying glass with me tonight for, if I need it. One thing that I had trouble following through it was the numbers often, I mean, I understand why, it's not, there's no attempt to obscure anything, but because there's different ways to slice the same statistics, the numbers often don't seem to match exactly, and I don't know why.
Okay.
Whether, if there's 13 on page 7, 13 allegations, and then 2 resigned during the investigation, but there's 19 case dispositions, 10 of which were sustained. Trying to make them all balanced is a little difficult. The overall impression that the report gives is we're doing better. Which is that correct impression?
Yes,
And it seems to be across the board that we're doing better,
thank you, yeah.
which is good news. There's lots of good information. I wish we had the report, as it was 30 pages, more than a couple days before our meeting. I don't know what can be done about that next year, but,
So next year it will be available sooner and it'll be available sooner during the year.
okay. And in terms of, in relationship to the meeting where we discuss it, if we could have more than a week, advance copy, it would be very helpful, so we can actually, I'm not sure if everyone got a chance to read it. I'm the only one who's retired, I think, because my time is more flexible. Okay, on page 19, reason for use of force. Some definitions would have been helpful. What
Okay.
does actually armed mean as opposed to armed? As opposed to, you've heard that they might reported armed as opposed to actually armed?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, just to clarify, to help out with that a little bit. So oftentimes we hear from dispatch that somebody is armed. We don't know what with, or, sometimes the reality is that they are armed. And so when we arrive on scene, maybe they were armed at the time, potentially drop their arms, and then we're dealing with somebody who is unarmed, right? But
This is when they got something in
yeah,
hand.
so this is information that is actually armed at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ominous resistance. What makes resistance ominous?
Sure, so I can, I'm not good, let's see, I can answer with kind of a scenario. And so an ominous resist, something that we look for when we are approaching somebody is how cooperative they appear to be, right? And so ominous resisting could be things like clenching fists. You see the tightening of the jawline, things consistent with this person might not want to cooperate with me today. Oftentimes it's taking off the shirt, and those are all kind of precursors for a potential.
What is non-ominous resistance? I mean, I understand what makes that ominous, but in what sense, it's not even resistance yet, someone is clenching their fist, but yet you're not close to them yet. Whereas if they got their fists up, that would be a little more, that would be a little more ominous. What is non-ominous resistance?
So non-ominous resistance would be probably a little more passive in the resistance when the officer is approaching.
Like someone verbally saying, I'm not gonna cooperate with you, talking about your mother, et cetera.
Those kinds of
Okay,
things.
they're not gonna cooperate, okay. That's, okay, that helps. There was no breakout, well, there's breakouts of many of the statistics in here. And on many different aspects of the use of force, there was no breakout on the types of force used. That might be useful in the future.
I'm sorry, yes.
You break out the reason for the use of force and taser, how it worked and the reason for it, but there's no listing of different types of use of force and how often they happen. you know, gun,
Yes.
taser.
Commissioner Rady, I would check page 23.
Thank you. Oh, and I don't have it because I didn't print out page 23. Thank you, Katie. Sorry, it's helpful. Then I come to the compilation of 2024 internal case summaries, and I can't quite make them add up. There are 20 listed. On page 6, it says there were 19. There's one that's pending, so I don't know, that's the difference. There were 11 sustained. 4 officers resigned, 2 before the investigation was completed, and these are listed in here, and 2 prior to termination, and they are not listed here. So I have to guess which ones perhaps resigned. Does retirement count the same as resignation? An officer retires during investigation before or after investigation, but before termination.
I actually don't know the answer to that, and I can get the answer and respond to that.
Okay.
It would be treated the same, Commissioner.
Okay.
And to your point about the numbers, I think we need to do a little work there, because when I was reading it myself, I had a little trouble adding up the numbers in the last page as well.
Yeah.
So we may have missed something there potentially, or there's something that needs a little bit further explanation potentially.
Because, you know, there's cases, the case can be many officers, many allegations. It could be one officer with 5 allegations. It could be one officer with 1 allegation. And at different times, the cases are counted, the allegations are counted, and the individuals are counted. And yeah.
And with 30 pages,
It
it's
could be
hard to
clearer.
flip
Other
through.
than that, it's really appreciated because it's lots of information, and it is information that's very encouraging that the system works, that when there is misconduct, it is dealt with. Although the question of the outcomes is still one I have slight reservations. I just don't know.
Sure.
And we've got some ideas on that we're gonna work on later.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reedy. Commissioner Lund?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for providing the report. This is the one link between CRB and what actually happens at CRB for the public in terms of I think what Commissioner Rady was talking about, the sleuthing, is that you look and then you say to yourself, well, we had 4 officers leave the department while under investigation this year. What incidents? And they're oftentimes years back that then, I mean, the discipline happened in 24, or the event, the resignation happened in 24. My question is, to me, I'm looking at page 9, the corrective action taken table, and I'm looking at 4 officers leaving, where in the previous 5 years that happened in 2019, it looks like, but we'd had a relatively 4 years of kind of not. And then we also, the counseling number is up. And I'm just wondering, is there any, in the last few years, is this the new, is there a trend or I know we can't identify, that's part of the frustration, but is this a growing pain it seems to be from this chart, it's a trend up a little bit to me. Particularly that documented counseling number. So are we experiencing like growing pains with new officers? Are we experiencing issues with veteran officers, or is there no way to really characterize that? Thank you.
No, that's a really astute observation. Our department, how young are we as far as patrol staff is right now?
I think our average right now is less than 6 years for 70% of our officers, so.
And so,
young.
yeah, so that's definitely one thing that plays a part in it. You have a lot of brand new officers, and as the deputy chief had mentioned before, as a result of new officers, you have a newer leadership as well. So a lot of the sergeants are new, and so forth. And so there's definitely evidence of growing pains. We have what's really nice right now is we have one of the other sergeant that works in internal affairs is our DT sergeant. And so he works on defensive tactics, and he's able to observe the same trends we are, work through you know, if there is a trend that we're seeing, that we can kind of address those in training environments so that we can kind of work on those. I don't have an answer to your question. I have answers to how we're looking at the same information and trying to, I guess, mitigate those instances. I don't have an answer as whether it's senior or junior. I know oftentimes, as the DC had mentioned, that if somebody is looking at the end of their career and there's an investigation, they have the right and the ability to retire or quit. And though it might look like it's bad timing on their part, they're free to do so. And maybe it's a case of there's nothing going on with this investigation and they're gonna be okay, but they don't wanna go through it. But that's gonna be their decision, and oftentimes it's made with them. Or it stays with them. I mean.
The resigned prior to termination category, is that mean a termination decision had been made and the officer provided the opportunity to resign in lieu of?
It can mean that, yes. It could also mean that we're still going through the discipline phase of the internal affairs investigation. And I would just put it out there that it's quite obvious that it would be a termination case. And so if we haven't reached the determination yet, and somebody was to leave prior to that, we would still continue with the investigation, make a determination so that it would track with the officer and we could report to DPSST. So there's a whole bunch of nuances to how that's all reported and what happens in the end.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Lyman. Commissioner Dunlap.
I was just curious around like the arrest and use of force data. Have you guys ever thought about including like demographic data? Around like race, gender, kind of location of where the arrests are happening?
We do collect that. I don't know if we've had a separate table for that, but we could try to implement something.
I think it'd be helpful around just like buckets and stuff like that.
Yeah, any implicit, and it's, I believe it's in here with the, any of the bias is reported directly to the FBI. So it is data that is collected. Yeah.
Commissioner Dunlap. Other questions? Commissioner Mogus.
Also on the arrest data, I was pleased to see that only 2% of total arrests resulted in a use of force, but a little bit alarmed to see that we increased our numbers of use of force over last year, kind of significantly. But also pleased to see that we received more commendations than complaints by a little bit, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mogus, other questions? Concerns? Commissioner Rating.
I talked a lot, but I do that. On the summation of cases, would there be a problem? I understand that names obviously do not go anywhere near this report, but outcomes for the sustained complaints, would it be legal for those to be added to the report? So I don't have to place it, Luca?
So maybe a bar graph alone or a pie graph of some kind
For
that
each one,
identifies.
for example,
Okay.
there was case 6 of misuse of a firearm, bad judgment, pointed at fellow officers, admitted it. Was that the reprimand or was that a documented counseling? I'm curious. I don't know who it is and I don't want to know who it is. It's none of my business who it is. But that sort of thing, you know, I look through and go, okay, that one I'll bet resigned. That one I'll bet, resigned. That one had to be documented counseling. But what about this? That looks like fairly serious, but there aren't enough possibilities left. It's got to be documented counseling. That sort of thing. Just sort of, could that be put in or not?
Yeah, almost certainly not, Jack, because one of the things that will happen with anything that we put in here, when you read it, you can identify who the police officers are, and certainly you could identify internally if we had some kind of synopsis of the case to some degree. and your point misuse of badge or point firearm, we would know who it is. This has been
You would
going a
know.
while. Yeah, anybody else in this organization would know too, because they talk.
Yeah,
And we potentially run afoul of our employees' rights and our collective bargaining agreement. This is one of those points where I say this discussion is going to go past my time here. Is there something we can do that would wash all the information and yet still provide some sort of closure potentially? Right now, we're not there. So there's work to do here, but we would not be able to do that like in that construct. Now, I do see value, and I would channel the chief here. There is value for us if we can wash and we can show, hey, look, we're first of all taking these complaints seriously. We're investigating. We have an independent auditor system. Is there something in the end where we could report back? And we even discussed this with CRP, and we have, where we could report back and say, hey, look, not only do we take this serious and investigate it, but this is the kind of level of discipline that was merited out for this. I think it's valuable for us. I think it shows transparency in our community. And I think it's part of being a professional agency. It's just finding and threading that needle for that sweet spot is difficult. So I get to take a pass on this one, but I mean, Chief Skinner will be back, and I'm sure these discussions will continue because the chief and I have discussed this.
there's a proposal being worked on this question of transparency, and I think it's gonna be possible to work out something that doesn't deny every.
Yep. I agree.
Thank you, DC. Other questions, concerns? Lieutenant Jensen, thank you so much
Yes, sir.
for your time.
Very close. Yeah.
And for the report. On, we have our first policy evening. Sergeant Norton, would you like to talk to us about DUI enforcement policy 4.11?
I would, and I'm actually gonna point out this is the procedure, which I don't know how many of these we've reviewed, but. So, I just wanna start by talking about the reason why I selected this procedure for our December meeting. So, a little background about me that I haven't been able to share before, is that, obviously I promoted to sergeant last year. Before that, I was an officer since 2013, and I had a lot of time to figure out what I liked about this job, and one of those things was DUI enforcement. I became a DRE, which is a drug recognition expert, in 2017. And that is where you go from doing standard kind of alcohol-related DUIs to DUIs that involve other impairing substances. And I am still a DRE at this point. I'm also the board president for the local victim impact panel, which is a restorative justice nonprofit focused on providing offenders to have a perspective from people who have themselves been injured by impaired drivers, who have lost family members to that, and so on. And that has been a really good process. If anybody has questions about that, feel free to ask me later. I'd love to talk more about that. And then I've also been a fatal crash reconstructionist. And so all of that together, I wanted to tell you about that because I want you to know how much I actually care about impaired driving and reducing that in our community. And I'm not the only one. So that's why tonight, I know that there's this procedure in front of you, and it is a complete tear down and rebuild, which I'm sure you saw. It has been 26 years since we revised this, and things change frequently with DUI laws. Most of it is, it's daunting to a lot of officers, and there's a lot of steps to it. But if you do the steps and you stay within the case law as it gets updated, it's really simple. And so thankfully, we have some great officers here at EPD who regularly enforce and hunt down DUI offenders. Because it's certainly a very preventable cause of death in our community. And I'm sure it goes without saying that all of you have probably had or known somebody or had a family member or acquaintances that have been impacted by DUI. That's also why I kind of, we changed the title of this from DUI enforcement to impaired driving, because it's a lot more it's a broader kind of name that reflects newer case law where, we now, can arrest and prosecute people for driving impaired on any impairing substance, which is really good because a lot of people have slipped through the cracks there. So, before we go on and kind of talk about this, I actually have a subject matter expert who I've invited here tonight. This is Officer Aiden Clark. He's been with us since mid 2022 as an officer, but he was also a cadet with us before that for 3 years. And beyond being a Dewey hound, he's probably also our tallest officer. I'm sure you saw when he walked in. And he is just doing great things, keeping our streets safe on top of his normal patrol load. So I thought I would open it up to him to talk a little bit about DUI stuff that he wants to share with you. And then also, if anybody's interested, we could do a little demo of field sobriety tests, if anybody wants to volunteer for that. So I will leave it to you, Aiden.
Yeah, hi, my name's Aiden, feel free to call me Aiden. As Sergeant Jordan said, I've been a cop for just over 3 years. Really started getting into DUI enforcement during my FTIP, so during training. And then I got cut loose to graveyards and have been on graveyards on the weekends since. Saw how important DUI enforcement is, not just for the community, but also safety of lives. I've seen death, tragedy, property damage, and sobriety throughout DUI enforcement. I have had the opportunity to attend a lot of the DUI victim impact panels as a screener. So I'm able to attend those and make sure people are sober coming into the victim impact panel. Been able to have a lot of great conversations with people that are having sobriety issues and get to have that follow-up of after I have my contact with them, maybe during that arrest, maybe I see them there at the victim impact panel. And I would say 99% of the time, people are like, as much as this sucked, it was very beneficial and I appreciate it. I take it very serious just because of the amount of lives that are saved and the lives that are changed for DUI. I believe that DUI is also one of the most unbiased crimes that an officer can investigate because it goes throughout all walks of life. A very common saying is DUI is the common person's crime because it does not target a certain group of people within our community. Everyone is subjected to it, and it can be anyone from the person that just gets complacent with having maybe too many drinks, going out with their friends, and then chooses to drive home, to the people that have blatant disregard for their safety or other people's safety and choose that their right to drive is more important to them, even under the influence. So I've taken it very serious, and I know this department is too.
Thank you. You guys have any questions for Officer Clark while he's here?
Yeah,
You, Dave Clark's son?
yes, sir.
Yeah, I thought so. Did they actually get you a larger cruiser so that you would fit in it?
Yes, sir.
They did.
Yeah,
Excellent, congratulations.
thank you.
Sergeant Jordan I think you did a magnificent job on this. I crawled through it all and I found only 3 things that I had questions about.
Okay.
The procedure is very orderly and logical and makes sense. And I ran it past my wife, who used to be a counselor for people who had DUI cases, and has worked on these subjects for a long time. And she thought it was absolutely fine. Except for 3 things.
Exactly.
41132 on page 2 at the bottom. B. If officers detected impairment but did not observe the suspect driving prior to contact, officers should take steps to establish probable cause for a DUI to include either an admission of driving or other evidence like video or witness statements, and the suspect denies consuming any impairing substance between the contact with police and the time they drove. That sentence leaves me cross-eyed.
Yeah,
I
it's
can't figure out what it's saying.
long and run on, yes.
Are we looking at a case where someone was reported to be driving oddly and the officer shows up and a brewery. But you don't know whether he got drunk after he was driving or what this, you're trying to establish that he was. But, is that what the sentence is trying to say?
Essentially, and I mean, it stems from the fact that because this is a traffic crime and, we have to theoretically, we'll want to establish since driving.
Yeah.
Is a major part of that
You
criminal.
didn't say
element.
driving,
We have to establish that. So,
but that sentence is,
okay, I can fix that sentence.
yeah, that needs to know.
Okay.
That takes us over on to page 3 and down towards the bottom of page 3.
Mhm.
I don't know what an HGN is. I don't know what a modified Romberg is, and I don't know what roars are.
Right.
I assume officers do, and this is written for officers, not for members of the commission, but for my clarity, could you tell me?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, you're correct. So it's not recommended that we put the step-by-step process for these tests in here. I will actually alter this to spell out what HGN means, which is horizontal gaze nystagmus, which is
Horizontal gaze.
nystagmus. Nystagmus.
Okay.
It's a type of muscle spasm in your eyes. And so that's when we check people's eyes, we're looking for this specific type because there's numerous types of nystagmus. So I will definitely spell that out. And officers are trained on HGN, horizontal gaze nystagmus, walk and turn and one leg stand at the academy. So that's kind of
That's
curriculum.
straightforward.
Yeah. So they're going to know all the steps of those. And then roars is actually an admonishment based on the case law that's cited there. It's someone's name that came out of a case, wherein, basically if somebody refuses to perform SFSTs, which are standardized field sobriety tests, we then read them this admonishment, which says, okay, we don't require you to speak, but we request your physical cooperation with these tests. Will you consent to that? And so that transitions these 3 tests, to allow someone to actually kind of, participate in those and for the officer to conduct them without requiring any incriminating statements.
Does it also inform them that if they don't cooperate, there will be consequences?
It's not like the implied consent combined report. Yeah.
What's a modified Romberg?
Well, that one is, it's kind of a balance and, balance test, I would say. It's one of our non-standardized, so there's standardized field sobriety tests, which are scientifically validated, lots of data to back them up. Non-standardized means that, they're not in that group, but we can rely on them to some degree to show indicators of impairment. And so this one is, which actually, Aiden, do you want to hop up and demonstrate modified Romberg?
Yeah, absolutely. Does someone want to volunteer?
It's pretty quick, so.
It's
I
very,
already passed the
Well,
standing on 1 foot.
we'll
test.
do a abbreviation of it, so we're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
using up
we'll
a
do a
ton of time.
I
So-
see, it's easier, yeah.
Would you be willing to stand over here for me so I don't bleed? So it's very simple. I look for a flat level surface. I tell them, I would like you to stand with your feet together, toes touching, heels touching, and your arms relaxed down by your side. So when I tell you to, I'm gonna have you tilt your head backwards and close your eyes. When I say start, I want you to count in your head any way you would like the passage of 30 seconds. When I tell you to, when 30 seconds is up, I'm gonna have you tilt your head forward, look at me, and say stop. Okay, so go ahead and tilt your head backwards, close your eyes, start. At that point, the subject would then begin counting any way that they feel fit within that time frame. What I'm looking for is swaying. There's eyelid tremors, there's leg tremors, there's also facial movements. I can then get a closer look with officer safety at facial muscles, body movements. There's different indicators of impairment that may not be clear to the common public, but to me, I can pick up on it. So perfect.
Good job.
So other things like a stimulant, you might see some like hand movements, you might see the facial movements. If they're taking something like a depressant, you might see a exaggerated swaying. Cannabis, very common. There's eyelid tremors. You'll see like it's very noticeable to the point where like in the cop world, we call it like they're gonna fly away because their eyelashes are literally moving so fast that they're flying. leg tremors are very noticeable because their pants will begin to shake from their legs shaking so bad. So these are all the indicators that I'm looking at. The biggest one is the time. So I'm looking how close they're getting to that 30 seconds, and we give about 5-second range over or under. So if they go
Can I
to
drive home?
To do more tests.
So we're looking at that 5-second range. So anything that's above or beyond or below that 5-second range gives me an indicator of impairment. I think an important thing for us officers is DUII, it's a totality of the circumstances based on articulable facts. So just because I observed one person sway or I got maybe 2 out of the 8 observable clues for the walk and turn and 1 out of 4 for the one leg stand doesn't mean that, yep, you didn't pass, you're under arrest. I have to use the totality of the circumstances based on my driver contact, my conversation with them, and clues during the field sobriety test or non-field sobriety test to indicate this person is unsafe to drive a motor vehicle and they're impaired to a noticeable and perceptible degree.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Excuse me, before you do any of the testing, do you ask the people if they have any physiological reasons why or medical reasons why they cannot take the test?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually within our EPD manual, we have a list of DUII questions. I also ask additional questions to those DUII questions. If they're agree per Miranda rights and I'm able to have that conversation, then I can begin to ask those questions. So it includes illness, injuries, mental, physical disabilities, if they have any balance issues, if they wear glasses, if they're taking prescriptions, if they've seen a doctor recently. There's a plethora of questions that we ask, which is also what we look at when we're conducting that investigation. Again, because we have to look at the totality of the circumstances and be able to establish that this person is intoxicated on an impairing substance, not that they're medically impaired or there's something else going on. And
Does that give them the choice not to participate in the testing?
yeah, so once we complete those DUII questions, we then ask them, will you perform field sobriety tests? And they get to tell me if they do or do not want to.
They still have the right not to, though.
It has to be voluntary on their part, which if they tell me no, then we read that board's admonishment, which talks about the test, what happens if they don't do them, the fact that we have to use the basis of just our personal contact to establish if they are under the influence or not. And I can say it myself, I don't know how many times I've performed field sobriety tests on both sober and non-sober people, but I have pulled over quite a few people that I believe was impaired based on my initial contact with them. But after having the conversation, after doing field sobriety tests, I was able to establish that they aren't impaired. So when an officer does field sobriety tests, it doesn't mean you're automatically going to be under arrest for DUI. It's furthering us to have a better understanding of what we are trying to do at observing impairment.
Thank you, Commissioner Lyman.
Thank you, Chair. On 2 issues, the first, I'll stick to this. Standardized field sobriety tests are approved by or validated by the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration. And as Sergeant Jordan said, they are scientific and they're generally accepted as the way to observe impairment. The non-modified, the non-standard field sobriety tests are just that. They're not scientifically validated, and I would just make the comment that the use of them, I definitely understand that you make observations and develop evidence and make your determinations based on these in part on these non-standardized tests. But it does open you and the arrest to attacks that are not available if you use the standardized. So your cross-examination, for instance, is going to be a lot more rigorous, and a lot of hay will be made about the non-scientific validity of. So, as a comment, I just question, I hope that I'm not going to urge the commission to say like, hey, that we should recommend they don't use non-standard, it's the totality as you say. And I just want to make people aware that there's no science to them, and it's a little bit to me like a vaccine schedule or something that I would prefer that we are doing scientifically validated testing to in the field to determine if someone's impaired. That was a comment. No need to respond. You can if you want. Go ahead, Sergeant. The question's for you, but please go. Hmm.
I do want to respond, just, while those tests are scientifically validated, and widely accepted, they are primarily for predicting alcohol impairment, or not predicting, but, assessing impairment with alcohol, which is a CNS depressant. There are 6 other drug categories, which is why these other tests, while not scientifically validated, they are still based on, scientific principles, and are actually better at detecting other kinds of impairment, which is why it's recommended that we still use them, and they are widely taught in ARIDE, which is the Advanced Roadside Impaired Driving Enforcement. They're also taught at the Academy in the Drugs That Impair Driving, the smaller kind of subsection of that, as well as at the DRE Drug Recognition Expert protocol. So that's why they're a part of that protocol, and in that sense, they are standardized, and they are administered the same way every time, and they are relied upon for indicators of impairment for other drug categories.
Okay, thank you. I noticed that the policy seems to have dropped urine as an option. Am I misreading that, or am I seeing it correctly?
No, it should technically be in there, but it's going to be stuck under the ICCR section. It really, urine is still how Oregon functions. If we are requesting a chemical test and you say you pass a breath test, we're going to request urine under the ICCR, which is the implied consent combined report. We are the last state that does this, and it's not the best test out there. A better test would be a blood test, and that's why it does need to be in there. And I guess I probably just overlooked that as I was mashing together a bunch of information that wasn't there before. And so I will definitely add that part in, but it is a minor part. And if we write a warrant, we're not going to write a warrant for urine. We're going to write a warrant for blood.
But the Oregon law provides that a blood, breath, or urine, it is one of the options. It's an option for someone that's arrested and charged, or arrested for DUI. So I wouldn't. I understand what you're saying, but I mean, we could be the last sanctuary state. I mean, if it's the law of Oregon, that should be part of our policy. So, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Mogus.
I had just a couple of things. If I point out like typos, is that
That's
helpful? Okay. So the first one was just for clarification for ARIDE, that's just drug, not alcohol. Is that right? I see them mention
Yes.
drug and I wasn't sure if
Yeah.
that like included alcohol. Okay. On 4.11.3.3, this is page 3, D. Second sentence is not a question.
Yeah.
And then the letters are sort of alphabetically out of order, so it goes
Yes.
D, C, D.
Format.
So the second D, first sentence, you just need to change training to train. And the next page, page 4, letter B under chemical tests. I just wanted to clarify, is it less or is it higher than 0.08?
So that's going to actually relate to when a urine test can be asked for, and that's part of what's missing.
So on B though, is the word, are we looking for the word less?
Yes,
Are we,
because,
okay,
so the implied consent applies to, first and foremost, your breath test. And so if somebody submits to the breath test when requested under implied consent, and they provide less than a 0.08.
got it.
They are not going to be subject to that administrative suspension through DMV. It's not a presumptive impairment at that point, based on that administrative level only. And at that point, then, they would be asked to submit a urine test if the impairment that the officer observed was not commensurate with the breath tests. you
Got
know.
it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. for pointing
Page 6. Under blood samples, the paragraph that starts with 2 samples, you just need a period at the end of that first sentence. And under number 1, if a subject, I don't think it's an. And then, page 8. Under booking, number 1, I think you want to add, after offenses, just the words for which they were arrested. And finally, on page 9, at the bottom of the page, number 4 under reporting, I think the word you want is complete rather than compete.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Commissioner Lopez, can you, the last one, do you mind?
Yes.
Couldn't find it.
Yes, under 4.11.6, number 4. The starting of that paragraph, the word compete, I think is supposed to be complete.
Thank you. Other questions? Commissioner Dunn?
There's just one more little one, I think state, should be state versus not Bianco instead of state S.
Where are we at?
On page 5. And then under 4, it says, when it goes into, I'm providing you with a phone and privacy.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yes. And then I just have one more thing, just out of the curiosity. I know you guys said when you do field sobriety testing, you're not automatically like under arrest. But then in A, it kind of says that you are read your Miranda rights before. Is that normal?
It is, and it's especially important it happens at that kind of junction, because we're gonna ask a lot of, kind of personal questions and, medical history, like we're talking about, health issues. And then just essentially you're in a custodial interrogation at that point, right? You are probably not free to leave. And, you're with officers who are in uniform, and so you've checked the boxes for having your Miranda read.
Okay.
So,
Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Emily?
So I wasn't sure, are we doing these breath tests in the field?
No.
No, you're taking the person, so I don't wanna do the field tests,
Right.
I likely decline in this case, we're just gonna. So you take me back to the EPD, to the hospital?
Any facility that has an intoxilizer 8,000. So our facility has one, county has one, the jail has one, Springfield, just most law enforcement agencies are going to have one of those.
Okay, second question is a little unclear to me. Do I have the option to decline that as well and skip to the blood test?
Well, theoretically, and this does come up sometimes where people say I just can't or I don't want to, it's still a refusal for the purposes of the ICCR, so you would still be subject to that DMV suspension, which is administrative and it's separate from the criminal
So
portion.
your license gets suspended until it's cleared up?
Yeah,
Okay,
but theoretically, if you wanted to consent to the blood test and not take that breath test, there's no reason you couldn't do that portion, knowing that you still can't get around that that's.
right,
the
we have to
refusal.
do something.
Well, yes, but you could, theoretically, if you wanted to do a breath and a blood test, then you wouldn't be subject to any suspension
Right.
based on a
Right.
refusal.
But you have the option of saying, I don't wanna do the breath test, I'm gonna take the suspension and I'm gonna do the blood test instead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can set
okay.
that up.
I'm wondering how, I don't know, maybe you don't keep track of this, but how frequently do people agree to do the, what are we calling these things? The-
Field sobriety test?
Yes, thank you.
I don't have a percentage on the top of my head, but a lot of people do them.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's surprising.
I don't know, I would ask Officer Clark, what do you think?
I would say about 80%.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, okay.
80%.
If I had to, based on my own experience, say, how many people do field sobriety tests, I would say it's about that.
Okay, that's, all right, well, that's good. So I didn't find anything else in here that I, saw an issue with. So yeah, I think considering the amount of work you did on this, I actually figured, we'll find something, that like, but this is really well done. And I think your introduction where you talked about how much you care about this really shows in that, like, you knew your stuff, like, and I thought this was really well done.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lennon?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I want to recognize that we have, truly a subject matter expert, and Sergeant Jordan spent a lot of time on this, and we all are on the road, and we all have loved ones that are on the roads in Lane County, and this is really important. And I spent 5 years speaking at the Victim Impact Panel, and it's a tough audience to reach, but so I recognize the value of the work, and I don't want my prior comments to suggest that. I just want it to be done correctly and right and fair to both the drivers on the roads. But the work is really important, and I want to recognize you for it. And so I'm going to softball a question. Like Commissioner Ye touched on this. I know you're constrained by Oregon law in terms of what you can use in the field, but I'm sure around the country the trend is to use marijuana detection, some kind of device similar to, as tested through the breath. I don't think we have that here. We don't use field breath. What would you, if you could have things, what's missing from your enforcement toolbox? Not a lot of time, but just if you could get enforcement tools that are not available to you, what would you look for?
Hmm, that's a great question. Well, I don't know that the technology has fully, developed yet for field tests for marijuana use. Although that is kind of our primary second group here that we're seeing a lot of impairment alcohol and marijuana, among other things. I don't know, Officer Clark, do you have any ideas about what would be a better tool for us?
No, we do get a lot of questions as to why we come here to the police department or to the Lane County Jail for that breath test. And that's just pursuant to case law for Oregon. So it is structured through the Oregon State Police for the Intoxilizer 8000 current model to be housed at a department facility. So that is the structure of it. That is how our state does things. So that's just the procedure that we follow. Instead of technology, I would just ask for awareness. I wish there was more awareness for it.
I'd like to add one more thing onto that. Also, I'm actually really glad we don't use portable breath tests here in Oregon. They're not accurate enough to justify that. It's just not, we don't want to set our citizens up for failure, and we want to do good work with, all the tests, but the procedure we have now I feel like it's solid and it's the way we should do things. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Glad to hear, that's why I asked, because I had heard they were not very accurate.
How many do you average a month
Oh, me?
catching
Oh.
the department?
I don't have that stat.
Roughly, spit in the wind.
I know that I'm hearing, this officer here, Officer Clark, and, another officer are doing, I wanna say, like, I'm hearing 3 to 5 on weekend nights.
Yeah,
Between-
when we get the opportunity to get away from the calls for service and do that self-initiated work such as DUI enforcement, we end up finding a lot more, of course. We do get the calls for service such as crashes or complaints or whatever it may be that we end up making those arrests. So when myself
How effective is that call to 911? we've gotten the type of car it is, where they are, what direction they're driving, but then we never find out what's happened with that. How likely is it that that gets really followed up and somebody gets pulled over?
It really depends on what the call for services are looking like for the city as well as the time. So I can say it myself, I start work at about 8 o'clock. On average, where I'm showing up to work and there's still 30 to 40 calls holding for the city. And when it comes to a priority scale, dispatch does that for us of safety of life, severity of crimes, everything else. So it'll get broadcasted to us of a reckless driver or see the reported impaired driver. And then that gets broadcasted to units. Hopefully there's a unit in the area that can look into it, or there's one of us that is available and able to go follow up with that. And I can say myself and the other officer that really cares about this DUI enforcement, we have shown up to people's houses of like, hey, you were reported as this is the driving behavior that was reported. Where do you think that came from? It has led to arrests. It's also led to being able to establish that maybe this was a medical thing, as well as having the reckless driver or the person that's unsafe. That's where we begin to, as officers, really look at the safety of our community and the possibility for injury. And we use that as a basis for probable cause and also how we're going to respond to that call, because I within my career, it's happened several times where we get multiple of those calls. So not just you, but maybe other people also reporting that builds us a better foundation to establish how truly unsafe that person is driving.
When I did my ride along at the dispatch center, there were numerous cases of calls about reckless drivers or the like. And the dispatcher is looking at her map and saying there's not a patrol car within, there's no chance we're gonna get this guy before he's gone. They would put it out, so just in case, but frequently there would not be an answer or nothing would happen as a result of the call, just because there's only so many officers and there's lots of town. And if they're not in the vicinity, the chances of actually getting there wherever the car is now diminish. And there's other priorities.
I wanted to actually get on to the end of that. It's super important if you call in a DUI, we pretty much rely on, especially for establishing probable cause, a named complainant. So some people, I totally respect, they don't want to name themselves, that's fine. But it makes our case a lot easier to establish for the prosecution. When we say this named person who's willing to be a witness observed these type of driving behaviors, or this person drinking an open can of alcohol, or whatever the case is. Also getting a license plate. It seems it's hard sometimes to see license plates, but that, is a really identifiable thing. And sometimes we can run that plate and say, well, this is where so-and-so lives, or maybe it's a plate we recognize because we've come to know some of our frequent offenders who have, I guess a substance abuse issue and then driving as a thing. The last thing I would say is that, it sounds like we had 29 DUIs in November, which I don't know that that's the highest or the lowest or anything, but it's just kind of indicative of while officers are stretched incredibly thin, they're still able to be doing enforcement that's meaningful, because 29 is just about one a day. So. Okay, and there's 291 year to date.
91?
291, yeah. The other nice part about when you call in, one last thing, our dispatch does an incredible job. They recognize direction of travel and they call to other agencies that if the person is headed out of our jurisdiction, they might be able to intercept them in Springfield or on I-5 or Lane County. It just really depends, but they communicate really flawlessly, and we're often able to pass good information to them or catch a DUI driver before it becomes a tragedy.
Right. Any other questions or comments? Sergeant Jordan, what would be most helpful to you? Do we have some revisions into the course here, and probably more than this or scriveners here. Would you like to spend a little bit more time, bring it back, or do you want us to try to
Cobble together.
cobble
No,
together? So,
I'm totally fine bringing it back in January with the changes, because I've noted all of them, and, I think as long as that urine section gets put in there, it's gonna be a pretty great procedure for us, so if you all are okay with that, I appreciate being able to take feedback and fix it up.
any concerns about that? We need a motion for such a thing, anything? You okay moving on? All right, thank you all. Next up, we have a non-criminal intoxication at either 311. That's also a future, if I'm not mistaken.
It's on the
No
policy.
policy. No, go ahead. Thank you. Sorry.
So this one I paired with this just because this was also an old, I say old, it needed to be revised, it's been a while, so this one is pretty straightforward, only a page and a half, and it just kind of covers. How we handle non-criminal detox, in our city. Most of you have done ride-alongs, so maybe you've encountered this, but really this just kind of talks about, complying with the ORS, which governs our ability to involuntarily take somebody and put them in a safe place to medically detox. So that includes our detox facility, Buckley being one that we mostly know here in Eugene and rely a lot on. And secondarily to be a hospital setting. As a last resort, the jail is equipped to handle medical detox. They have a, full medical facility in there, but if, as you can see in this policy, there is no crime or not a crime that rises to that level, we would like to try and take someone to Buckley. So that's what this policy is about. I'm happy to hear any questions or try and address those.
Mr. Wilgus?
Thank you for both of these. Under the detoxification options, I just wondered, is there any way, or would it be helpful to an officer to spell out like how to choose which route they take, whether they send someone to Buckley or the hospital, or like how does an officer choose?
So really, this is the great part about leaving discretion with officers, because we train so intensely to make sure that they're capable and well-intended in making good decisions that are the right one for the person. So it really depends on the scenario, and I don't know if you would disagree with me there.
No, I 100% agree with you. I was just gonna say there's so many possible variables with every single one of those situations. This is a case where we could actually overwrite too much into policy and then be too restrictive. I mean, there's some specifics in here, like if we have a crime that's occurred, Buckley's is not out or is not in, that's go to the jail kind of thing. And so I think the high level guardrails are covered in the policy. It's a good point. I mean, anything we can put in our officers' hands that is very clear to them is always better. The unfortunate part is, of course, when we're dealing with individuals and we're dealing with any type of substance and substance abuse, there's really too many variables probably to it.
Other questions? Concerns? Commissioner Rader?
Yes, I would move that we adopt this.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, debate? Hearing none. We'll go ahead and vote. All in favor of approving policy 311, non-criminal detoxification, please signify by raising your hand. And that is a unanimous vote. Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you, sir. Next up on the agenda is closing comments. Commissioner Lund.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, sorry about the technical glitch before, and I'm happy to have shared my keen insights and not my cold with all of you this evening. I want to thank the auditor for coming. I again want to thank DC Adams for his service to the city. On the flock thing that I just want us to, as it goes away, remember that at the very beginning, and I did listen to the chief's statement or press conference, and the thing that struck me is, yeah, there was a grant and it was available, and you took an opportunity and went out and got this technology, but the element of surprise really hurt the department as this thing went forward. It might have gone very differently had there been some awareness spread. So I hope the takeaway from the department is that while there are circumstances where not processing it and being transparent might be the under the circumstances appropriate, this would have been different if this commission and the council and stuff had kind of had wind before the cameras were up in the air. So and then the second, I just want to finish with, on Thanksgiving, I saw a picture online of a citation that was issued for failing to attend property in a park. And the narrative was that when the brigade went out to feed in Washington Jefferson, the tickets went to homeless people that left their stuff to go eat. And there was a picture of a citation. It was a community court citation, but absent it being fraud, that it was. But if it was real, like, come on, let's go after. First of all, I believe there should be a mediated settlement between the feeders, the people doing the feeding, and the city. This has been going on now for like a long time. But regardless, like, don't go after the unhoused eating, go after the people providing the food. And so if there's truth to what I saw online, it was disturbing. And I hope that, the bigger picture is this dispute needs to be settled. And I urge the counselors and the police department and whoever, the manager, whatever, like, let's get this settled, because giving tickets to people eating a Thanksgiving meal being offered to them is just not Eugene. So thank you.
Commissioner Lyman, right?
I would like to thank Deputy Chief Adams for his service, for his humor, for his passion and dedication to doing it the right way. I don't know how common it is, but it impresses the hell out of me, and I hope you have one hell of a happy retirement. Other than that, again, I would urge those who can't sign up for the academy should try and sign up for a ride along. Getting more insight into how this all works is invaluable in doing our job here. So thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner Espinoza Blank.
Congratulations on your retirement. Sergeant Jordan, thank you very much for doing as much work as you have in this. I've been volunteering with TIF, the Trauma Intervention Program, and we see a lot on the other side of people who are affected by the tragedies. And just a shout out to all of your officers, the deputies, everybody who shows up. They have been so wonderful to work.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams.
I'd like to echo those sentiments, and yeah, I've done a lot of work also with like mothers against surviving and stuff like that, and the victim advocate panels and stuff. And so I feel like you could tell you have a lot of passion about this work, and it's just a difficult subject that I appreciate that a lot. And I just met you, but happy retirement.
Hi, bye.
And I also did sign up for the Citizen Academy, so I'm also very excited about that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Councilor Yates.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're gonna get to retire. It is one of those things that we all aspire to, and we never know if we're gonna make it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Are you staying local?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Oh,
So
yeah.
good to see you around town.
Yeah, you'll see me around 3 to 6 months. I'm doing nothing but just trying to recover from what a lengthy law enforcement career has done. You're absolutely right. The whole goal is to get all the way through. And well, there's been a few times I tried not to do that, but maybe I didn't try, somebody else tried, but we're all good now. So
Well,
thank
I'm
you.
glad. Yeah. Congratulations. Yes. That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Yates. Commissioner Williams.
I think I'll echo everyone's comments. Thank you, Sergeant Jordan, for all of your hard work. Thank you, Deputy Chief. I'm sorry we didn't get to know each other better, and I wish you all the best. Thank you, Craig. And thank you, Lieutenant Jensen, sorry. Rashid, this work.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rady, I did verify the homeless persons Memorial Day event. It is, the first hour is a kind of resource fair. And then at 6 o'clock will be the memorial service. So thank you. Thank you. And also thank you to Commissioner Lyman for giving voice to concern for our neighbors experiencing homelessness and that specific scenario that was presented on social media for Thanksgiving. So thank you, Commissioner Lyman. Those are all comments that I have. Thank you all for time and the attention tonight to these important concerns. Thank you to the city staff, police department for your continued service. DC, congratulations.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second?
Second,
I guess there isn't any debate. But we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. It is unanimous. We're spoken in favor. And the police commission meeting for tonight is adjourned. Thank you all for being here. And we'll
Good
see
night.
you.
That's all. That's good.
I know